Hey everyone, it's Dixie. Coming to you from a much better headspace today. Sorry for the morose feedback yesterday. I was being so dramatic, but yes, it would have been a real bummer to have not made it to the jury. Um, but as you can all see, if you haven't already, just looking at the memory wall on our little screen record here, we did it. We made it, guys. This is a huge milestone. Getting through the hurdle of the first merge vote. Obviously, it was a little bit scary with all of the idols out there, and 3 people being immune outright. But we came through. We made it. It was honestly a really wild vote. Lots of idol plays. I think all of them unnecessary in the end. And then maybe a little bit of mystery around kind of if any idols remain in the game. So obviously, as you can see from the memory wall, we lost Leah. So that was kind of a bummer, but I think that there was never really a scenario where Spyro idled anyone but himself. I think my question was if he tried to bluff and save it. But he played it. He didn't get the bulk of the votes from Lendl, and he didn't get any votes from them. Leah got 6 votes and ended up leaving. And then for Gelmir, what we ended up doing was splitting our votes. I think there was a lot of strategic sense in doing that, just because with Conquer and Quill both immune, they kind of held the power in a tie scenario. So if there had been any sort of tie between any of us and any of the Lendls, then they could have broken it in our favor. Hopefully. I think that's what they would have done. I think that really the only folks that Conquer and Quill may have considered more valuable than Gelmir folks would have been Evie, and Evie was immune, obviously, so they would have most likely come through had any of the people that we voted for tied in numbers with any of the people that we didn't want to see leave. And so Spyro spent his idol. What we had ended up doing was splitting between Geralt, and I think that's how you pronounce it. I think I've been pronouncing it wrong all season. Geralt and Mouse, which was fine by me. I think I wanted to vote for Nate or Geralt out of all of the Lendl options that were available. And didn't really want to vote for Mouse just because I wanted to maintain a level of relationship with her if I could. What we ended up doing was 5 votes on Geralt, 4 votes on Mouse. Those 4 included Zag's extra. So Zag used his extra, Daisy and Mouse did not. In addition to saving her extra vote, Mouse had an idol played on her by Zero, which we knew about. And that negated those 4 votes. But with the way that things fell, that was really ultimately unnecessary because she would have stayed unless Geralt had idled himself, which, surprise, he didn't end up doing, which was really great. As you can see, Geralt was the other one to leave. It was a 6-5 to 1 vote with 4 votes against Mouse negated. So with Geralt, it was interesting because I think Geralt was always going to be one of the people that we put votes on. The other one was going to be potentially Nate, which honestly, from Conker and Zag's perspective, probably didn't make sense for them to vote anyway. So I see why they changed it. We also thought that maybe Mouse would be a target that Evie could get behind. Evie ended up voting with Wendell, which is fine. She's definitely doing the double agent thing, and kind of is what it is, but we were thinking that maybe it would be a 5-5 thing if we did Mouse, because we might have been able to get Evie on board, but no dice. They ended up going for Leah over Spyro, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. Mouse didn't want to do it, but I think she went along, probably got overruled. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a bummer. I was actually really looking forward to potentially working with Leah going forward. But wasn't meant to be. I think in the end, for my game, it's better that it was Leah as opposed to Aerith, who seems like she was maybe in the mix as an option. In fact, Geralt put one vote on Aerith, interestingly. I'm sure there was some logic there, but it didn't end up mattering because... Oh my gosh, you're so loud. Do y'all hear this? What is it, Chandler? What are you meowing about, baby? Oh, he's very meowy today. He's just chirpy. Yeah, so Geralt was kind of funny because we basically decided when we were talking votes, we decided to call his bluff because he's got this public idol. Everyone thinks he's going to use it. It's almost the smart move not to use it if you think everyone thinks you're going to use it. But then reverse psychology, is it smart to then not use it? Because I don't know, I think that the logic is a little bit circular and you can go back and forth a million times, but he ended up not using it. But the funny thing was, he sent me a long voice note, like maybe 15 minutes before deadline. Let me find it here. Let's see, where are you, Gerald? Gerald. I think I've gone too far. Here he is. Okay. So we got a long voice note, 20 minutes to deadline, and he was basically just saying, hey, I'm in the car. I'm going to make it through tonight because I'm using my idol. You're also going to survive. So I'm really looking forward to working with you. He was like, you don't have to tell me who you all voted for, which I wasn't going to do. But yeah, I mean, it was the kind of voice note that had I not had a little bit of, I guess, priming from Celestia and Daisy, I would have been generally like, oh, okay, this guy seems like he's fine. He might be cool. Like, it's probably cool to get ahead of it. He's using his idol. He's still going to be here. He was not, in fact, using his idol. So I don't know if he was trying to, like, do the reverse psychology thing and trying to just ensure that had we been voting for him, we changed. I don't know, because I feel like... So he sent Ochette a similar voice note, apparently, and she and I were kind of talking through it toward the end of deadline, like with like 10 minutes to go. And we thought about throwing a vote or two on Nate, but in the end, we just stayed on Geralt. And it was total bluff. He was, trying to do something big brained and overthought it and ended up being the one to go, theoretically with his idol in his pocket. But Ochette and I have had some conversations about that, and we're not so sure. We think he could have transferred it feasibly. Ochette's first thought was, oh, maybe to Nate. But there's also a possibility he could have transferred to Mouse, just because if they knew that Mouse was going to be safe via the vote through the idol play, that would have been a way to keep it safe. Additionally, Symmetra was really not on anyone's radar. In fact, interestingly, Symmetra ended up, so Symmetra told everyone she wanted challenge advantage in the auction. Figured she was lying about what she won, but I figured she did get pouch number 7. But no, she actually ended up getting the idol. And she claimed to me after the fact, after she had used it last night on herself, that she'd won it with a bid of 230. But I'm wondering if that's not completely true and she maybe got some more. She said that Jarrell was the one that transferred her the money to get it at a bid of 230. But I think Mouse also transferred money to somebody. I don't know who exactly. There were some shenanigans going on. So I guess all of that is to say, I think there's a non-zero chance that that idol is still in the game, but who knows? Not going to dwell on it too much. I'd like to think that based on the game board of those remaining in the cast, these merge portraits, I'm obsessed, by the way, Liam. I'd like to think that Spyro and Quill have enough of a target on their back at this point that if there's an idol play from Elendel in the next few rounds, that it would fall back on one of them as opposed to basically the other 5, Gelmir, who are kind of, I guess in a sense, maybe hovering in my ideal Final 5 territory. I was a little bit annoyed with Daisy yesterday, but Daisy definitely came through in her own way yesterday afternoon. In fact, at one point I was like, well, why don't we just vote for Daisy? Because Daisy's definitely not going to get an idol played on her. But Daisy was definitely somebody who was making me feel somewhat secure insofar as we weren't sharing information about what our respective quote-unquote sides were doing, but we were confirming to the other that, oh my gosh, you are so loud. Yes, I'll pet you. Okay, I'm going to pet this cat while we do the confessional. He's so chirpy today. And I think that multiple people were doing that. I was kind of trying to do it with Sim. She wasn't really biting as much as I'd hoped. I did it a little bit with Zero. I think, in fact, Aerith has been working on her relationship with Zero here. Kind of cliff notes, Spyro and Aerith have been apprehensive of Zero throughout this game and have, to the point where Spyro very adamantly, I think, wanted to throw vote Zero's way last round. But I think Aerith has been trying to work on that individual relationship with Zero, and she ended up getting notified by Zero that at a point she was the target, or she was at least notified that she was getting a vote from Geralt. And so really what it came down to was the idol plays. It's really wild that all of those idols were essentially misplayed. Spyro kind of took credit for Symmetra's misplay, so to speak, Part of me thinks that maybe part of why she wasted it could have been because she was holding two. She was holding Geralt's. So I definitely am not ruling out an idol being in the hands of somebody from Lendell. So yeah, I guess we'll just have to see. Going forward, other advantages would be Daisy's extra vote, Mouse's extra vote, my penalty vote, and then whatever is in the chest that Ochet's key unlocks, which I think Daisy has the chest, but according to Och, they haven't unlocked it yet. So we'll have to see if I learn the contents. But yeah, so huge milestone, because at this point, guaranteed to be around for the rest of the season. Even if I'm the next one to go, I'm on the jury. So I feel like I can breathe a little bit easier. It's not in my nature not to stress, but I'll at least be at peace, I think, if I'm the next one out. That said, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of people's games for me to be the next to go. Maybe for Nate, maybe for Evie, maybe for Zero and Sim. And I think Mouse is kind of I don't want to say Mouse is a follower, because Mouse isn't a follower, but I think Mouse was kind of cowed into voting a way she didn't want to vote last round. So even if I don't think that Mouse would want to vote for me, I think that she will go with the majority of whatever group she's in. I do think Daisy is an important relationship for Ochet and I in particular to keep tied down, just because I think that Daisy might be a voice that is going to bat for us in those closed door conversations about what Lendell is plotting and planning. Technically, they have the votes on their side this round. Nobody, as far as I know, the only people that know about my penalty vote are Aerith, Conquer, Och, and Zag. They're the only ones that I've told. So, additionally, Leah apparently had the bell that brought a friend into the game, so that's dead too. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things develop. I don't really want to go for anybody on Gelmir right now, just because I think that if there is still, in fact, an idol in the game, Quill and Spyro could draw that target. So as of right now, I think we'll see how immunity goes. I think I did fine in immunity, but some of these people are so fast, so I expect to have a middle of the road score at best. Yeah, so I have done the challenge already because I'm going to be kind of MIA until deadline. I've got to leave soon for an out-of-town appointment, so I'll be in the car a lot of the rest of this afternoon. But I want to end with doing a jury kind of tier list, and I've plugged in all of these awesome new icons from the board, which are varying levels of incredible. I'm obsessed with mine. Conker's is a little creepy. Daisy's is really fun. I mean, they're AI, right? But they're still fun. I mean, some of the AI avatars that I've seen have been interesting, but I'm liking these. I think they're fun little spins on the characters. Standouts: Daisy, Dixie, Evie looks super cute. Ochet looks super cute. Zag, I feel like, is always the thirst trap of the season. Thank you, Liam. I mean, everyone looks pretty decent. Just some look better than others. So it's a fun take on Zero and Symmetra. Spyro's meh. Um, Mouse. Mouse is giving Angelica pickles, and I love that for her. Conquer is giving Five Nights at Freddy's. Aerith is giving Aerith. Um, so yeah. So let's see here. So when it comes to my S tier girlies, it's gonna be Aerith up there for real. We've had the most consistent working relationship throughout since the swap. Coincidentally, I don't have any relationships left in the game in a game sense that didn't exist from the swap onward. Because as of Leah's departure last night, I'm the last Liurnia left standing. I'm the only one left out of a tribe of 8, which no stranger to being the last of my kind. In fact, if you recall season 3, Dixie was the last bandit by Final 7, but this is a pretty early point in the season to be the last one left. I think in another All-Stars game I played in where I got rocked out, I made it to 11th place out of 32, but in that game I was also the last member standing of my original tribe. So it's definitely not an experience that I'm a stranger to, but it might be the earliest for me that it's happened. Final 13 is kind of crazy to be the only one of a starting tribe. Might be a record. We'll have to see. All that's to say, my relationships on Gelmir are really the foundational ones for me game-wise, because Celestia is gone, Banjo's gone. So it's pretty much activists. And then I guess Ochette definitely has usurped Quill and Spyro at this point. But yeah, that's why Aerith is definitely somebody that I trust. I trust Zag and I trust Conquer. I just know that Conquer is doing a lot. And I know I expressed in my confessional from yesterday that I was a little bit disappointed in how Conquer handled the auction. I think I was probably being a little bit over dramatic, but it can only be me. I'm Dixie Marie. And so I love Conquer, but I'm just cognizant of the fact that he's got a lot going on. He and Zag were definitely getting more information than a lot of people regarding the ultimate targets of the Lendell vote. Evie was definitely giving them updates, even if Evie was dragging her feet and giving them. They knew that the votes were on Spyro at a point, and they knew within the last 10 minutes that it had basically switched to Leah. They also were getting updates on, I guess, just that group being fed up with Geralt. Poor Geralt, in a way, I think, left to much fanfare and excitement. Daisy was very, very happy, even though she wasn't part of the move. I think, like I said, it's pretty lazy to just be a liar and a snake for just to do it. I mean, there's obviously utility in lying in the game of Survivor, but when you lie just to lie and kind of make a fool out of people, I just view that as kind of lazy and kind of the easy way out, and anybody can do that. You've got to kind of know when to time your lies in this game, and I'm by no means perfect at it, but my instinct isn't to lie. My instinct is to, be as truthful as possible, lie when I need to. I think that leads to better outcomes in a final tribal situation. And it just is also more true to myself. Um, Daisy, like I said, came through yesterday afternoon in what I felt was a big way. Just with communication, she was still holding the cards pretty close to the vest, which I don't necessarily blame her. I know that she's got to make sure she's not in a situation where she has no agency. So I think that it's going to be a crucial relationship for Ochette and I, going forward, to have that line of communication with Daisy, just to make sure that hopefully, like I said, if there's an idol play, it doesn't fall back on either of us. I just wanted to put my picture in here this time because I love it so much. It looks like it might be the version of Dixie from the Mario Brothers movie, but I don't know. Either way, she's looking great, and she's got the sigil or whatever in the background, which I'm not seeing in the others, so it just makes me feel special, and I'm just like, clap, yay! Evie, I'm gonna put Evie in B as well, just because I can tell that our girl has her closer relationships with Zag and with Conquer. I think she's probably closest with Zag, and shares the most information with him, at least from our tribe. I think she's also close with Daisy. So those are two that I have my eye on, but who I would like to see stick around for the time being. I've kind of divided the cast that's left into sort of who I want to see make it past the clock round and who I wouldn't mind seeing going before it. And Mouse is probably one of the people that I wouldn't mind seeing go before the clock. Maybe not the first person that I'd want to see out, but somebody that I wouldn't necessarily be devastated to see go, just because relationship-wise, she's been pretty sneaky. She's clearly got some ins with Zero and Sim and Nathan and Daisy and Evie to an extent. So definitely don't see her as the head of the snake, but I see her as a potential vote that is not going to be in my corner down the line. Nate is actually not as awful as I thought Nate might be, but still, I think he'd be one of my first choices to go this round, if it's a possibility. Even if it was like a Nate vote and somebody played an idol on Nate and we lost Quilava or even Spyro instead, I think I'd prefer that to not a Nate vote. I don't think I'm ready to say goodbye to Quill or Spyro, just because they've been frustrating to play with, but at this point, they've pissed a lot of people off, so I kind of feel like they're, at least for the time being, it could certainly become a problem down the line if people are trying to take them to the end as final tribal goats, but I think that getting rid of an idol would potentially be worth a Nate vote, even if it doesn't land. And I think I would like to see Nate go sooner rather than later. Ochette and I are definitely on the same page. I am mostly open with her about information, probably a little bit too open at times, just because I know that for Oach, she doesn't like to feel like she's not in a position to have agency. And I feel like I don't know what formal alliances she has going on. She's saying that she doesn't have them, but that's also could be untrue. I think she's been working on individual relationships with like Zag and with Conquer, and she's got a decent enough relationship with Spyro still, even if, you know, we commiserate about kind of some of our frustrations, I think Och is going to be the kind that is going to be less inclined to burn that bridge. That said, I feel like Och and I are going to be a very integral relationship going forward, so I want to see her stick around. And I'm definitely going to place her probably below Aerith in terms of trust, but higher than, I mean, spoiler alert, probably anybody else left in the game. Quill, I'm going to put in C just because I feel like Jamie a lot, but as a player, I don't know how compatible we are. I feel like it's been... I empathize with Quill and Spyro because they are playing this game in a unique dynamic, but I don't think that the reason that they're in the position that they are is necessarily because of their marriage. I think it's more to do with their actions. I think that they could have parlayed their relationship much better than they have. I think they've attempted to do it, but I think it's ultimately been a little too late, to quote Jenna Lewis in Borneo, Survivor Borneo. But I mean, Conker has a relationship with the two of them. They were in an alliance with Leah. Leah's gone now. It'll be interesting to see how they move. I think Spyro has been putting some kind of feelers out to try and make sure that Gelmir sticks together, but even if that's the case for the next few votes, I don't think it's the long-term kind of direction that the game might be headed in. So I love Spyro, but I'm going to put him in C as well. I would like to see Spyro in that category that makes it to the final 10 and beyond. But I don't think I would stick my neck out for Spyro at this point, just based on the trajectory of the game. Sim's tough, because Sim bluffed having the idol really well. I'd probably put her in the C category. Zag I'd put in A. I think he's a little bit more straightforward than Conker when it comes to what else he has going on in the game. But at the same time, I think that ultimately Zag is going to be Conk's wingman. And I definitely don't want to be kind of the third wheel, or even kind of one of various third wheels down the line. So I recognize that Activists has definitely been my most important alliance of the game thus far. I've worked the closest with them, but all good things come to an end, and I don't feel as though I can sit at the final 3 with them. Might be a little bit premature to be thinking final 3. And even looking at this layout, like the idea of Aerith, Och, and I in the final 3, I don't know if I would win that. I mean, I feel like if I wanted to really be a quote-unquote go-herder, I would be trying to scoop up Quill and Spyro right now. And I'm going to try and keep in their good graces, but it's hard to say. We'll end with 0. I've really got to get in the car here shortly because I've got to run and get gas before I get on the road, and then I've got like a 2-hour drive after that. 0 I'm going to put in B. 0 and I had a good conversation yesterday just about like anxiety and kind of the nature of why we feel the way that we do in these games and what does it say about us. And I opened up to him just as a friend, and 0 and I are people who have had kind of an interesting history in orgs. He went from somebody that I didn't think liked me at all to somebody that I've played with and respected to somebody that I've ended up playing with, and they've been my closest ally. And so we've definitely come out of our last few experiences as friends. Um, and I still have some questions, I think, about kind of some of the information that he's been attributed as spreading regarding outside friendships. But basically, what I indicated to Zero is that I want to see him stick around long enough to be able to use the clock. It was a big part of his storyline in season 3 that he had the button, which is synonymous with this clock. And so I don't know exactly what the final 10 round twist will be, but I would like to see him get to that point. So he's another person that I kind of want to see make it to that single digits point. And maybe that's silly of me to be interested in keeping a player around with something that can inject chaos into the middle of the merge, but I don't necessarily think that's the fun way to play. So I plan to stick true to kind of what I indicated to Zero and not target him before the final 9. And I guess it's not to say that I will target him at the final 9. I struggle to think of a situation where there wouldn't be potentially better options for me left at that point in the game, but he's definitely somebody that I guess I would like to see in that single digit space. So if we kind of look at the map here, basically my ideal single digit configuration is our S tier through B tier, and then one of C or D tier. I think the smart thing might be to bring Spyro that far, just because it's a conflict that you can keep in between him and Zero. And I feel like that's a little bit insidious to say, because I think that Spyro has some valid feelings about Zero, and I've definitely been there feeling like Nav/Zero like purposefully like has not been my fan, and that's made me feel kind of sad. So I understand if Spyro feels the same way, why he wouldn't be interested in having Zero around. But I don't know. We'll see. I think if Spyro has his way, he's going to want to come for Zero soon. But I don't want to see that happen, and I don't think that any of my primary allies want to see it happen quite yet. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from here on out. But I am just so elated to be still in the game, and it's awesome. And yeah, bring on the last half of the game. Dixie out, everybody.